Kamala Harris is gaining momentum amid conflicting statements from Donald Trump's team, according to the latest polls conducted in all states across the country. Let's start with the solidly Democratic states in which Kamala Harris is better positioned. We have California, Oregon, Colorado, Illinois, Nebraska's 2nd District, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine's 1st Congressional District, Delaware, Maryland, Washington, and finally, Hawaii. For Republicans, we have Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, West Virginia, Ohio, Maine's 2nd Congressional District, South Carolina, Oklahoma, Texas, Kansas, Nebraska, Greater South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, Utah. In Wisconsin, Harris is ahead of Trump by 6 points. This is the state that Biden won by less than 1 point in 2020, suggesting that Harris has a stronger position here. If Harris maintains her advantage, she will likely win Wisconsin in 2024. In Minnesota, Harris has a 7-point lead over Trump, and there was exactly the same gap compared to 2020, so we can say that Harris maintains the same level of support, which suggests she would win that state if the election were held today. In Iowa, Trump leads by 4 points, and that's exactly 4 points less than in 2020, so we can be sure that his lead has shrunk a bit. But since there is still time before the primary election, Trump can still win this state. In Michigan, on the other hand, Harris is ahead of Trump by almost 2 points. In 2020, Biden won Michigan by 8 points. While Harris' lead has shrunk slightly, she can still win Michigan if she maintains her current support and doesn't make unnecessary statements during the political race. Pennsylvania has been experiencing a so-called swing lately. Harris is now ahead of Trump by about, even though a week earlier Harris was trailing her primary opponent by 2 points. But in 2020, Biden won the state by a 1-2-point margin. The race remains tight, but Harris' slight lead suggests she could win Pennsylvania if the election were held today. But we'll leave our speculation aside and stick strictly to the polls. New Hampshire. Harris leads by as much as 11 points when Biden won that state by a 7-point margin in 2020. Harris seems to have a lot of local confidence in that state, which suggests she is likely to win New Hampshire. In Virginia, Harris has a 7-point lead. Biden won that state in 2020 by a 10-point margin. While Harris' lead is slightly smaller, it is still significant enough to suggest she will win Virginia. In North Carolina, Harris is ahead of Trump by 2 points. In 2020, Trump won that state by a 1-3-point margin. The race is very close, but based on current polls and historical data, Harris has a slight lead in North Carolina. And in South Carolina, according to the latest data, the situation is quite different. Trump is winning that state by 14 points. In 2020, Trump won that state by about the same margin. In Georgia, Trump leads by exactly 1 point. In 2020, Biden won Georgia by about a 1-point margin. Given Trump's small lead and the amount of time until the election, we can't say that Trump will definitely win this state. But Trump could win Georgia if the election were held today. In Florida, Trump has a 4-point lead. In 2020, Biden won that state by a 2-point margin. Trump's lead has increased slightly, indicating that he is likely to win Florida if he maintains this level of support. In Texas, Trump leads by a 4-point margin. In 2020, Trump won that state by a 5-6-point margin. Trump's lead has increased slightly, suggesting that he is likely to win Texas if he maintains this level of support, which is entirely predictable since Texas is considered a more Republican state. In New Mexico, Harris leads by a margin of nearly 9 points. Biden won that state in 2020 by a margin of nearly 12 points. The range is wide, though. Harris appears to have a solid lead, suggesting she's likely to win New Mexico. In Arizona, Trump and Harris have exactly equal odds, giving the candidates a groundswell in that state's political race. In 2020, Biden won that state by a 3-point margin. Given the current polls and the state's recent history, it's a very close battleground. This race could go either candidate's way, but with Arizona leaning toward Democrats in the last election, Harris may have a slight advantage. In Nevada, Harris has a 1-point lead. Biden won Nevada in 2020 with a 5-point lead over his opponent. But even with Harris' support being smaller, she could still win Nevada if she maintains her current level of support. In Alaska, Old data shows Trump leading by a 5-point margin. Given Trump's latest data on Alaska now, the polls may well change. In 2020, he won that state by a 10-point margin. Although his lead has shrunk, Trump still looks capable of winning Alaska if he maintains his current level of support. In Maryland, Harris is ahead by as much as 28 points, which speaks to her undeniable advantage in this state. In 2020, Biden won this state by a 30-point margin. Harris' lead has shrunk a bit, but even with that margin, she's likely to win Maryland. And lastly, let's talk about another state that Donald Trump is winning by a wide margin. But before we do, subscribe to this channel so you can let me know you're interested in my videos. In Indiana, Donald Trump is ahead of his opponent by as much as 17 points. In 2020, Trump won this state by a 16-point margin, which tells us that Trump will most likely win this state in this election as well. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. New video coming soon.